Hello there YouTube, and welcome to this week's episode of Slot It In There with me, Sean. And this week I get to chat about one of the shittest games I've ever played in my life. Now, this particular game was one of those games that promised so much and delivered nothing but heartache and angst. So, let's roll the titles. And so let's get into it. Don't forget to like, subscribe and tickle the bell if you like the content. It does help the channel out a lot, so please do it if you can. So, one of the shittest games that I've played. Well, as a few of you may already know, I am old. Very old. In fact, I'm so old that I remember times when home computers weren't a thing. That's how old I am. Anyhow, I digress. So I'm going to go back to the year 1984. Yep, 1984. I imagine, if you will, a young, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed Sean pawing through the latest copy of Crash magazine, because we didn't have the internet back then, so any news we got about new games or any tech info, anything like that, was via a magazine. So I'm pouring through this magazine and I come across an advert for a game. And that game was Jack and the Beanstalk. I can't describe to you just what I felt when I saw this magazine advert. It was an image of the front of the cassette cover and a few of the in-game screens that you could see whilst you were playing. And wow, I'd never seen anything like this on the ZX Spectrum. Up until then, we'd been kind of used to graphics like this. Or this. And what was being shown to me in this magazine advert was full screen, full colour graphics, which just blew my mind. It was like I had to have this game. This was like the next best thing. So I saved up my pocket money for a few weeks, run down to the local computer shop and purchased this copy of the game. And then I ran all the way back home with it in my grubby little hands and slot it into the cassette player. You see what I did there? Anyhow, I waited for the game to load up a long time, because back then games were loaded from cassette tape and magnetic tape, and eventually the game loaded and I was greeted with the welcome screen. We'd already had quite a few iconic games on the ZX Spectrum by this point, things like Manic Miner, most of the Ultimate Play the game, like Jetpack and things like that. Some innovative games from the time, really groundbreaking back then. So I was really expecting some big things of this, and this is what I got. So as you can see, you're moving around, and you play Jack, and as the old story goes, you found some magic beans, you planted them, a beanstalk grew overnight, and you decide to go up it and try and rob the giant of his possessions, basically, and bring them back home. So you start on the floor next to your house and next to the beanstalk, and your job is to get to the top of the beanstalk. Therein lies the first problem. The collision detection in this game is abysmal, and you'll find you're repeating the same moves over and over again just because the game randomly doesn't like you to going a certain place. For instance, if you're on the ground level and go up too much, you die. I don't know why you die, you just die. As you're going up the beanstalk, if you put so much as a pixel outside of either side of it, you die. It's just so unforgiving. You need to learn a route up there in between all the enemies until you get to the top. When you finally do get to the top, you get this random level, a bit like Manic Miner, where you've got like blocks and go across and avoid the enemies. And it's the same thing all over again. And the slightest deviation from the path, and you die, and you die, and you die, and it's so frustrating. Eventually, you can get past this level, and you get to the giant, where you've got to make your way across his sleeping body onto the tabletop and retrieve the gold, and then get back down the beanstalk before he catches you. And that's the game. There's 4 screens, and it was just like, actually beating that game took so many times over and over and over again, but you're just dying randomly, and for no apparent reason. It was just so disappointing. And this is why it's one of my shittest games. Purely for the fact that I held so much hope for this game, and I wanted so much enjoyment out of it, and it delivered nothing but frustration and disappointment. So there you go, guys. That's my opinion of Jack and the Beanstalk, all the way back from 1984 on the ZX Spectrum. Do you agree with my opinions? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments down below. Also, have you got any particularly bad gaming memories from yourselves? Anything that you wake up in a cold sweat at night thinking about, thinking that was a really bad game? Also, let us know in the comments below. As Chris always says, it's that interaction between you and us that keeps YouTube so special. See you in the next one.